Welcome back, everybody, to Be the Frequency. Honestly, this is an interview I wanted to have for a while, specifically on a topic of community. And I was like, I want to find somebody that's really like living that experience. They're really showing up in their community. Their business is serving the community. I want to talk to somebody who can help you understand either if you own a business, how to build community, who's already done it and is doing it well, or something you're wanting to do to be able to hear from somebody's experience that you're like, okay, like they're doing it and how important community is. And nobody, I don't think, does it better than Meg. Meg Mashore owns Common Ground Pottery. She is one of the founders. And I feel like I've mentioned it in a couple of podcasts, so maybe you know, but I am a budding ceramicist. I'm not that great, but I'm getting better. I'm getting better every day. One of the main things that really drew me to this particular studio was actually the sense of community. So I'm talking to Meg the other day and I was like, would you come on my podcast so you could talk about this? So I'm so thrilled you're here. She owns 2 businesses. She, on top of Common Ground Pottery, she also owns Rox Management, Rox Management. So she's a very busy businesswoman and does all the things. It seems like effortless, which I think is a nod to, but it also is a nod to like, I think passion and things like that are important when you're building things. So I'm really grateful for you and just coming on and being like, yeah, she was like, yeah, I'll do it.
But thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
I mean, because we're like kind of focusing on your pottery studio, can you tell us a little bit about how, not just how like Common Ground came into like fruition, but also why, because I think there's so many like arts and crafts or like passion project type places, whether it's knitting or painting or all these things. But like, I think that's a differentiator. Why Common Ground come to be with such a heavy influence on community. Like it feels very like, effortless.
It's definitely not effortless. I will definitely say that, even though it may feel that way. I think there's a lot of work behind the scenes. And I think even building community, there's a lot of failure as well that you have to kind of accept, which me and my business partner, we learned early on in opening the studio.
On the way first.
Yeah, I think we opened with really this intent of making it this place for every single person to make them all happy at 100%. And that was something that we would spend hours talking about and how do we make this perfect for everyone? And we realized after a while with some unhappy people, we are failing trying to make everyone happy all the time. Because if you're making one person happy, then you're failing the other person who is the counterpart of that person. So I think we had to give each other a lot of grace and the community a lot of grace of realizing like we can do what we're going to do our very, very best. And I don't want to say accept the fact that we're not perfect, but also understand that maybe our best is not always good enough for everyone.
Well, and even like saying like, and you're like, okay, if I make one person happy, I make somebody else. And I think that's an important part of community to understand is that your sense of community and belonging doesn't, everybody is always going to belong to the same community at the same time. And I think you see this a lot, or at least I've kind of noticed this or felt this in this stage of life that I'm in because I had kids earlier in life that I was like, oh, interesting. Like I have friends just having babies and I have friends that are retired.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I feel very, that kind of like, I don't really feel like I belong with the new moms anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not experiencing the same struggles. Like my kids are in high school and stuff like that. Although I like you, I enjoy you, but like, I can't relate to those things anymore. You know what I mean?
You're not identifying with it anymore.
Yeah.
Relatable for you. I think I deal with that too. I have a sister who is 9 years younger than me and she has a 6-month-old baby. And so getting to be, my boys refer to him as my nephew. It really feels bad.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I should be offended or not. But
they also call themselves his uncle cousins, which crack me up as well because there's such a large age gap.
It feels kind of like that.
Yeah, I have an almost 17-year-old and then I have a 13-year-old. So my almost 17-year-old will be 17 in a few weeks. And yeah, so I can identify with having a baby, a young baby, talking to my sister and remembering that, right? Because it goes by so fast.
Yeah.
And also you're raising teenagers, which is a completely different world.
Totally.
Yeah. So there's a whole spectrum. And so when you're building that community, to understand and to be able to relate to maybe people who are experiencing things that you did when you were younger, but also completely different.
And they experience things differently. And so like when you have a business, you're like, how do I make this something that that is inclusive, but that doesn't also mean that it's for everyone. And those two things are very different.
Absolutely. And that's our biggest goal, is how do we make it inclusive and safe and welcoming for everyone, but also understand that we're never going to make it for everyone, even though we might try our
Yes. Like you can't be like, and I think that's a hard part to like grapple with. I think as a business owner in general, like you want something that I feel like I've really leaned into or loved has been a lot of conversation around like, because I create a lot of content, it's like, how do I create polarizing content? Not in the way to offend people,
Right.
but in the way to be a clear beacon for the people that this is right for.
Right.
So much so that the people that it's not right for are repelled by it. And that's like that being okay. It's kind of hard for your ego a little bit. You know what I mean? Or like, because again, you're like, I want to help everybody, or I want to be that thing for everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's honestly the biggest challenge with the pottery studio is there's a book called right now, but it refers to the third place by Ray Oldenburg.
Oh,
Have you heard of this book?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know what it's called, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's like the good place, or
Yes,
the great good place. I think it's called I think that's what it is. But I read it in college, and that book was written like in the late 80s, and it talks about the place that we wanted to create with the pottery studio, which after reading that in college, for me, it was like, oh, it'd be great to have a place, right? Because third places are, if you reference like TV shows, it's like Cheers or The
We were
Shop
just
for Friends.
being in third place today when I was there. I was talking about it with Rosa and Ricky.
And so that was the biggest thing, was how do you create a third place? And so even starting the pottery studio, I was pretty new into pottery when I thought, this is a third place, and I would love to be able to expand this type of environment. There are other pottery studios in town that are wonderful, all of them in their own way. And so my thought was, I would love to, bring this to the community as well and really expand upon that community. So I would always say that for me, it was community first and pottery second. As compared to my business partner, he is far more pottery. He's far more pottery than I am. Not pottery more community, but pottery more than I am. He's far more magic, where I am more of the people.
Yeah.
I really like to focus on the people. That's always my focus. And so that was the goal. But it was a shocking reality when it was like, this isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
And not everyone's happy here.
Yeah.
Despite how much, if you...
And you're like, I'm doing all the things to try and make you happy, and you're still unhappy.
still unhappy.
But like that happens in relationships too. The one person can be doing all the right things, and it's just still not. It's like having their love language is gifts, and you keep doing an act of service, and it's just never going to hit the mark because that's not the way that they speak. Yeah.
Yeah, I was on vacation with my family recently, and my oldest, loves time together. Like that's his love language, and so taking long walks, we do that every single morning. But then people would say, oh, well, it's Graham, my youngest. Is he also going on the walks to you guys? And I'm like, no, he hates that. That's not what he wants to do with his acts of service. So every night he'd be like, can you rub my feet? Like rubbing his feet.
Here I am doing all the walking, and I'm doing the feet rubbing.
I'm like acts of service, like, right? So it's like, you're absolutely right. You can't do it for everyone, even though you would try to do the best. But I think accepting failure, there's that saying that my mom would say to me as a kid, which is like, you might be the sweetest, juiciest peach in the world, but there are still people who hate peaches. Yeah. And that I really didn't think about that until opening ground and realize there are people who hate peaches. And it doesn't matter.
I can provide all of the tools. I can do, and again, if you're creating something, whether it's like something more physical like you guys, or like a digital product, like it doesn't help me to add more things to a course just because somebody's unhappy.
Correct.
That doesn't take away and if it's just because this person isn't receiving it how I want them, I can't force them to like it better just by adding something in. And typically they're not.
They're the same level of respect, and that the respect that you're showing is received that way, and sometimes that's not received that way either. It's just a lot of acceptance, I would say, when building a community, because I never thought about the downside of building a community, to be honest. Yeah. I really didn't. I thought about all the upsides of there being a place for people to go who, when we opened our doors, within a few days, we had a handful of people who are still members today that said, like, I've lived in Vegas for 9 years, I've lived in Vegas for 12 years, and I've never found a place I belonged, and I really feel like I belong here. And that that was huge.
Yeah. Like, this is it. This is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah. And then, the reality said it, not always being it perfect for everybody. And that was hard. That was a hard thing to kind of get over and navigate.
What would you say then is what are some of the other downsides of building a community? Or just the difficulty of being the one that's being the steward of that community?
Yeah, the pressure of it. So, obviously there are people who you connect with more because they're looking for deeper connection, right? And so you connect with them because, again, I use a lot of analogies or a lot of things. My mom passed away when I was 25, and she had a lot of really wise sayings for me. And I remember her telling a story about, you were so easy to love as a kid compared to other kids who were much more difficult. And I never understood what she meant by that, honestly, until I'm like, oh, I get what she's saying. Like, there are people who just are very easy, meaning no pressure, no requirement, no, you're doing something for that person you're not doing for me. And you're like, well, I'm doing a lot more for you, actually, than I am doing for other people, but you're just not seeing.
Yeah, or you don't value it the same way, so it kind of goes by the wayside. Yeah.
And so she would always say that to me, like, you're just so easy to love, you're so easy to raise, you're so easy. And she would say that to me, I'd be like, oh, cool, I really got it. And now that I'm older and I interact with lots of people, there are just some people who are just easier.
Yeah.
Right? They walk into the room and you feel at peace.
Yeah.
And so people notice that, I think. And so it's like being respectful of the fact that I have a whole community to serve, a whole community to connect with,
including the ones that you don't connect with quite as easily.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. Not that I don't connect with them, but that I don't connect as easily.
Yeah.
So I have to work harder as hard to connect with them. Yeah. But they may not see that value because to them it's, she's
like this with everybody. They don't recognize that as the person who's trying to create this place where everybody does feel included, that it is harder to cultivate that with some people versus others. So even it's like what do they say, like the invisible load, I think, even at home, of like keeping track of like what everybody likes, so that's what you buy at the grocery store, and like those kinds of things. It's like that's the invisible load that nobody sees as the community builder, is that if I'm going to try to make everybody who's here feel included, that means some people are easy to do that and some people are harder. So it requires me more effort.
And more appreciative, right? There's some people who you give a minimum and they're very appreciative, and some people you give maximum and they're not aware of it.
Yeah. And humbling. That's what you're saying.
It's humbling. It's a constant reminder, trying to be enough and realizing that you probably never will be for them. And so you have to accept that and do the best you can and hope that for the people that you are able to impact or provide a community for, that it's meaningful for them. And even if it's not, that you did the best you could. I think that's what it comes down to.
I was like, it sounds like it's really good for keeping like ego in check. Great. I thought it was really good. And now you are showing me that this isn't as easy for me as I thought it was.
And the first time it happens where you have somebody that's just like, I just don't like you, which has happened.
Who said that to you? No,
there are people in the past, they're no longer members, obviously, because they don't like you. Whether it's like, I don't really like you. And I was like, cool. I respect that for everyone. And
which is funny because I think you're a very easy to like person personally, but
not for everyone. But you like peaches.
Yeah, exactly.
So
big fan.
But I thought it was hilarious. Now I say hilarious. At the time when they said it, I didn't find it. I was very neutral to it. I was telling a story today.
That's hilarious, but
Well, I was telling a story today to somebody about. They were asking me. They said, "Why are some people just so unaware of their behaviors or are socially unaware?" And I said they probably grew up in really, really kind families that never criticized them.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, I told the story about being like 7 years old and I was sitting in the back seat, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like, swinging my arms, kind of just sitting in the back, happy as can be. And my brother, who's 4 years older, was in the passenger in the front seat and like turned and looked at me and said, "You're breathing too loud." And like as 7-year-old, like hiding my face and trying to like slow. And I remember trying to breathe really quiet. Probably the rest of my life living with
I had probably have anxiety from that one moment, and now I only breathe to my clavicles.
And so now I'm socially very aware at the age of 7 of how I'm breathing, and also how like you eat loud and you walk stupid and like all these I was like, I am very, very aware of how I am, and no one can be more critical of your brother was growing up.
Yeah.
So when this person
Family
said,
had.
I just don't like you, and I went, oh, okay. And then they actually said, it bothers you that I don't like you. And I, honestly, it really doesn't. You have the right. That's your right.
Yeah.
And I really wasn't bothered by it. And not because I felt like, oh, I don't owe you anything, because I really tried, but because again, you can't please everybody. And if
It's
I'm
like
trying
I'm
the very
comfortable enough
best,
with myself and confident
yeah,
that the actions I have taken have always been what I felt like were the best interest of everybody.
yeah,
And so you're not liking me, like I've already done everything that I thought I could do to help our
and it's
relationship.
not working, it's not working. Yeah, I think there's an altruistic point of view that you have to have when building a community in general. I mean, if it's a third place community or just a friend group, right? There's the greater good of the whole.
Yeah. For us to be a priority.
Control.
And I think just in business in general, especially as businesses start to grow, it's easy when it's like you're like a solopreneur, maybe you have like one VA or two. But as you start to grow your team, you recognize like, I need to create a culture where I'm the steward. And sometimes that means if I'm leading the boat, that I have to say, like, make some of the hard decisions or have the difficult conversations because that's not everybody else's job or responsibility. That also means I'm going to be probably misunderstood and not liked.
Absolutely. I mean, a third place is building a community, building a safe place, right? So it's like a home. And our studio is 24/7. So people have access to come into this home that you're creating whenever they want. And you're trusting them to be respectful of the home itself, not just the furniture, but the people that are also frequenting that home. So you're adopting a lot of people and putting them into a family.
Yeah, a little fishbowl.
Yeah. And, if you think about it like a square footage of a house, this is the square footage of a house, really. And you're putting them all together and you're expecting, or you're hoping, there's no expectations, that's the wrong word, but you're hoping they get a,
Or at least are like cordial and like considerate.
happen. And so you have to navigate those conversations. Okay, when do I step in and when do I let this play out?
Yeah.
Watching.
It's like being a parent of a lot of little adults.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some where you're like, what is going on?
You're like, are you an adult?
Yeah. No, I'm serious. And, when I would travel with my boys when they were younger and we would see, somebody who was struggling, maybe somebody who was, on the streets or whatever, I'd always say to myself, like, where's your mother? Like, where is she? So I asked that question. Yeah. Where I'm like, where is she? We should call her. We have a chat.
It is. And I think, again, I think a lot of times we get focused on like all these things are going to be so good. And I think the next thing that I kind of want to ask for, like, talk about is that, yeah, there's like downside, but I think there has to be a broader reason as to building it. And again, what do you feel like was missing that was like the driver of it being a community? Like, was there something that you felt was missing in the community specifically? Is it something that you wish you would have had? Like,
Yeah, I think that it's even, I mean, the positive of a third place is 9 to 1 better. I think it's creating a place. The whole theory is creating a safe place that people can come and go without any kind of social obligation, right? Through hosting. Hosting.
totally exhausting.
Yeah, hosting is exhausting. Being required to stay. I mean, how many times have you been hosting a party or you're at a party and you're like, I have to stay here, and I feel like I'm
really tired, and like you've got those like 3 people that won't leave, and you're like,
yeah. And so that's why the whole 24/7 thing was so important, was to allow that ability to come and go as you want, which I think does create a much safer environment. I think watching the relationships grow, there are definitely relationships in the studio that I love seeing.
yeah,
And I may not even be part of that group, friends are forming. And I think in every this group, there's a small part of me playing a role or my business partner playing a role, right? But to watch the support that kind of comes in,
you're like, oh, I'm so glad, like, watch them go do things outside of the pottery studio.
watching that kind of evolve and watching them flourish because of those friendships that they've created. That's really rewarding to see and meaningful for me to see, is people having a safe place where maybe they didn't have it before.
Yeah.
Not just friend group, but I think as you become adults, you're no longer, when you're in school, you're environment,
Yeah.
demographic, typically it's much easier. As adults, it's hard
It's
to have
hard. It's
those
hard.
friends.
That's literally part of the reason that I joined the studio, or like was like I needed something that when I had a lash extension business, I recognized now doing pottery, because it feels very similar, that doing lashes was like very like a creative outlet for me. And because sometimes people are talking, but you're working the whole time they're talking, and then sometimes they're quiet. So for an hour, hour and a half, there's like no. So I would just put on music and like go to town to create art, essentially.
Yeah.
And pottery felt very similar, but I recognized, I was like, I need something, because my husband was like, well, oh, good. Like I took, the series with you or whatever. And I was like, he was like, should he moved his office he used to have a home office and moved it to a physical location. And so we have this extra garage, and he's like, we could like put a kiln into it. And I was like, honestly, it's a great setup. I was like, I don't think that's what I need. I want to go someplace. There's other people, and I want to go someplace that like I can have friendships and conversations and all these things that I think. I'm reading this book right now, and it's talking about like it's talking about the history of like the religion of the world of religion, so to speak, and like how culturally we used to be matriarchal in nature. And in that, community was always built in, because when women have money and resources and have things to share, they share and take care of the whole. Yeah. Again, this is not like me being more from the patriarchy or anything like that. But when men have money and resources, they have a tendency to use it for self and for their immediate, more like nuclear family, or to advance their business, not necessarily communal. And so I was like, I recognize that a lot of even the things that I'm doing in business, it's part of the reason that I started hosting retreats. I started doing group work and things like that, because I recognize how much people need people. And it's, as an adult, I always joke that men have sports that they, what I call parallel play. We're not actually having a conversation really that deep, but we're doing something with each other that we can kind of just shoot the shit. Right. And that's usually, I think, how men get their fulfillment. And yeah, women are often have children, or, that's more of their responsibility. Again, not always, but women have a tendency to not have that, where we can kind of passively, or it's just not as ingrained in our society, of like doing things that we enjoy next to each other that doesn't have something that benefits the family. So, or something like that, where it's just for us. And I think that's where I was like, I don't want really I was like, I might at some point do like a small kiln at home, but I was like, I don't even think that that's really necessary. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I'm really not that desperate to like get my pieces out there tomorrow that I need my own at home. I was like, it'll be fine. Like,
and I think even for like a production potter, right? So if you were doing it was a business of yours, it'd be probably much different than the community
100%.
focused. Which is what I always relate to more, is like the community part, not so much the pottery. Not that I don't enjoy pottery, because I do. I love when I get an opportunity to actually do it. Teaching people, or showing people.
Like, center your clay. More like this. Less pressure over there.
Yeah, the basic steps. Backwards and forwards. Yeah, those are great, but the expansion. But no, the community itself is. So that's what you're speaking to, which I think is what was missing. And why pottery? Right. Opening a third place, having a place in the community, was important to me from the day I lost my community, which was my mom, because she was really that matriarch. She had 5 sisters. I have a ton of cousins. She was the glue of that family. When she passed, the family kind of just dispersed. Yeah. There were no longer holidays together.
And it's not in every generation always.
Yeah.
It'll just be like one or like a pair of sisters, or like somebody. And you're like, how come how do we assign somebody in the next generation? Like, those are
can do it. Right. Yeah, no, she was and she was all about women supporting women. That was huge for her, because she had 5 sisters.
Yeah.
And I was the first girl in a long line of boy cousins and my brother. And so my mom was very much about fostering. You would think, I have a younger cousin who's 4 years younger. That was the yay girl. Oh, okay. I was kind of like we have girl? Yeah. Yeah. So I was raised like
with all the boys.
Yeah, in a way. And then my younger cousin was more of like the girl. And I was okay with that. But my mom was all about supporting women. always talking about that. Women support women. Women always have a woman's back, always. So I think that was ingrained in me a lot too, as well, about building that sense of community. I think what you're talking about as far as looking back when, for matriarchs, right? For women in general, you raise kids together. She's very much about that. Raising them together was a community thing. So COVID hit and we lost that sense of community.
Yeah.
We're no longer together. And so it was just something I was always looking for. So traveling a lot, seeing a lot of different communities, seeing what they were doing to build these third places. A lot of it was around restaurants, so bars, coffee shop.
Yeah.
Those are a lot of the third places. There's not a lot of activity based where you come. And even if you think about other fine arts, none of them are as grounding to me as pottery, because I can't pick up my phone when my hands are covered in clay.
Right.
And so the technology part of really checking out and really being grounded was really stress relieving for me.
Yeah. Oh,
It
100%.
was something where I slept better, I felt better. It was more collaborative.
Yeah.
So asking somebody to show that, even if you think about painting, like, how do I do this? They could show you, but with pottery, it's just different. It feels different to me.
Yeah. And I even feel like it's so funny. So many times I'm like, oh, I'm going to go in for like an hour and a half. And here I am 3 hours later. And I was like, oh, like, and I have always felt completely immersed in what I'm doing. You can't check your phone. And even though there's other people there, you're talking to other people. None of the other people are checking their phones either.
Yeah.
Like, everybody is just there in community. And I feel like that like closeness, and even again in like painting and things like that, sometimes it's a lot of like setting things down, stepping away, coming back. And not that you don't do that in pottery, because you kind of have to. You're like, well, here's my form that I made. Now it has to dry a little so that I can trim it. And then that has to dry enough to, then I need to put it into bisque. And then it has to, like,
there's so many steps.
There's so many steps, you guys. It's an investment. Unless you want to like.
And time sensitive.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
If you painting, I have to put this in the closet for a year and come back and start painting again, but not with pottery. Yeah. So I think it requires you to show up more frequently.
Yeah. I feel like that is like a similar aspect to like a yoga practice or something like that. If you want to keep being able to touch your toes, like, you have to keep touching your toes. Like, you go too long without doing it, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, my hamstrings are too tight for that. I need a lot more warm up. I need, all these things. And I think anytime you're using, because you use so much of your body too. Correct. And people don't realize that either. I was like,
workout.
Yes. I'm like, the other day I was like, I shouldn't have done upper body before I had gone to the gym. And I was like, oh my gosh. I decided, I was like, today is the day. After work, some arms, I'm going to also throw the biggest piece I've ever done. And afterwards, I'm like trying to do it, and I can feel that like my muscles are like fatigued. And I was like, I've had better ideas. But
I always say
such is life.
Yeah, pottery covers all facets. It also is a great workout. So you get
upper body.
You can't really snack too much when you have clay all over your hands. So
like, and you can't. You're just, I gotta be with my clay.
Yeah.
I feel like when you see, so when you see people kind of come together, like, what are some of the things that you have noticed people learning a new skill as like adults? And like, because you guys are doing kids classes now, but you guys weren't when you first opened, or?
We've always done kids classes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've always done kids classes, mostly because I think a lot, at least for speaking for myself, I'm always willing to invest in my kids learning a new skill more than I would invest in myself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Why is that so easy? Yeah. You're like, you need new shoes? Sure. How much? I don't care.
Exactly.
Me? Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, let's definitely do kids classes, because if I'm looking, I'm going to look for them more than I'm going to look for myself. We just haven't really marketed the kids classes that much.
Gotcha.
Our kids program is actually quite big.
Well, yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, the other day I walked in, like, so many kids, and I was like, is it because it's summer, but I feel like it's not necessarily.
I think like catch up a little bit more. We just never really marketed it very much. Mostly just because we just hit our 1 year back in April, so we're still in that new business.
Yeah, you guys, they have a waitlist, so they can come in for classes.
Yeah,
and then there's like workshops. So that's kind of how I ended up being like. I was like, oh, I really like Meg. Is that you come for like several weeks and are learning like wheel throwing or whatever it is. And then there's membership. So that's the one that she's talking about where it's like 24 hours and you have access to all the tools and all those things. And so there's definitely different like tiers and layers that you can come and join us. But they have a wait list for a membership, and you've had that since like pretty early on.
Yeah, and we're waiting a second.
Yeah, within a year, I would say. Like, when did you start the second location planning? Like 6 months, 9 months?
Maybe 9 months in. Again, from a strategic point of view, not something we necessarily wanted to do.
Yeah,
but
necessity.
It was a necessity, and mostly because we got a lot of the day we had to start doing a wait list. Maybe I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I literally cried because I thought, who is out there that wants to be here that can't be, right? And so that was kind of a hard day, and everyone was like, "Congratulations, you guys have a wait list." I always also thought like there are people who,
but you're like,
this might be their community,
yeah,
right? Because I think our oldest member is 79,
yeah.
And so for her, that's huge.
Yeah.
And it's given her a new leash on life. And, we learned that she hadn't never gone to Disneyland.
So yes.
Yeah. There were people who organized a trip. And luckily we were able to join, which was great and rewarding. And so I think of that, people who felt like there was no longer a community for them.
Yeah.
And we have a new member who is going to turn 18 soon. And she's been instructing with us for a year. And we're excited. We're going to surprise her with a shelf because she couldn't join because she wasn't an adult. Our memberships, our adult memberships, 18 or older, right? And so it's a whole spectrum.
Yeah.
And so that was when we decided to do the second location. That was really it. We need to be able to provide it to other.
That there are a lot of people out here who, again, want this. I think so many people use that. I mean, that's part of the reason why I had joined this other gym. Is it felt like a third space for a long period of time.
Yeah.
My kids were little, and they had kids classes and a pool, and Ava wanted to take tennis lessons, all these things. And I found a really great community, ended up teaching yoga there for a while. And I was like, oh, I didn't recognize, like, again, as adults, we need these, these pockets of community. But it's like, what do I just sit at a coffee shop until somebody says hello to me? And even then, it's just, that's someplace else for you to go. But that's not really community.
Right.
And so I think that's the biggest difference is stuff like this, where you're like, you're literally not forced. Some people don't talk very much, and that's fine, but they're there with all of these other people, and they pipe in and they know people's names and all that kind of stuff. But that we need these places where we lends itself to connect. It lends itself to create. It lends itself to, again, these things where it's like supporting one another. Because even at the studio, it's a lot of people that I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And I'm always like flagging down Robert, I know you know how to do this. Or, there's certain people that you're like, I know that you can help me, and they're more than happy to help.
They want to.
And there's not very many places like that.
But I think it also expands from just the community expands outside of that studio, right?
Yeah.
So there's a number of locally owned restaurants or coffee shops around the studio that I make a point of frequenting to be able to show support to them, which is really important. And then our members are frequenting them as well because it's important. And so we have a number of, members who are either owners of those places or related to somebody who is an owner of one of those places. And that's even important. And to watch that happen for me is it's so rewarding to be able to walk into another establishment and to say, I'm here to support you, and for it to mean something to them.
Yeah.
And so it's almost that small town feel.
Yes.
If I'm supporting you.
Great. Yes, that's a great description.
Supporting me. So I go and give me more of your stickers. I want to hand them out to people. And give me your.
This is exactly why I got her on. Yeah. I was like, because I think that's the biggest difference on people who want to build a community and who community is their focus. I think that's different.
Yeah.
And I think you're very naturally community minded. So it doesn't even seem like a thing of like, it's not a marketing strategy to come over here and get more stickers to hand out.
It's just rewarding. Yeah. I think even before I had Common Ground, in growing up in the corporate world, I would take notes about all my clients or even our vendors. So if I'm having a conversation with them and they say, oh, my kid's going to turn 13 next week, right? Making a note. Mm-hmm. So if you were to look at my calendar now, that I still have the same Outlook calendar that I've had for forever.
I can't get rid of it.
So many notes. I'll be like, so-and-so's sons, and I'll put the year, their birth year. So I knew on that day, that's how, whatever age they are. So I still send a text, even though they haven't been a client of mine for 10 years.
Yeah.
And just say, wishing him a great 18th birthday today.
Yeah.
Those little moments really matter. I had a miss up last week because Golden Boy, which is right across the street from us, their 1-year anniversary is coming up soon. And someone had said, oh, it's in one day, but they misspoke and they meant 1 week. So I was like, oh, no. So I ran really quick and got flowers and made an arrangement, one of our vases that we had made at the studio, and ran over.
You're like, I have a gift already.
So I walked in and I shocked them because I walked in. I was like, how many 1 year? And they were like, oh, in 1 week.
Well, I wanted to be the first person.
I was like, okay, I'll be back in a week. But here we go. Happy one week countdown to your 1 year.
I wanted to start this early. Yeah.
But those small little things like that I think are important to people, that go a long way, that most people don't really think matter, but I think they do matter.
Yeah.
To be remembered or to be thought of.
To be thought of. Everybody wants to feel like they matter.
Yeah.
And like, I talk a lot in here about like, we kind of have these like core needs, and it's to be seen, heard, and valued.
Yeah.
And eventually all of those kind of equate to feeling loved.
Yeah.
And doing those little things, I think in a society that like, honestly, like low effort this and below, I'm like, no, I'm not going to be nonchalant. I want to be chalant.
Yeah.
I don't want to be.
Exactly.
I don't want to be, inconvenience me. I'm okay with being, like that is the price of having community. It's being slightly inconvenienced. You don't feel good. It's your friend's birthday. Like,
Yeah.
bitch, girl, I'm gonna get dressed. Go out. It's your friend's birthday. It's not just like, hey, do you want to have dinner later? It's like, this is important to her.
So it's
like,
meaningful.
like being okay with like, I'm okay with making a big deal out of things, like, and making you a big deal and making you feel important, because everybody matters. And it doesn't take a lot of effort for me to literally walk across the street with a vase.
Yeah.
I'm already here. You know what I
And
mean?
you come back, right, in a week to be like, oh, no, I'm coming back. Yeah, it does. It means something, I think, to most people, even though when you're doing it, it may feel like, oh, this isn't that important.
Yeah.
But you step back and you go, oh, that did mean something to them. So I think that's the other part for me, which is so rewarding, is having the vessel, which would be the studio, of then being able to build that community outside of the studio. And so that's really rewarding to watch, and to send people over. Say, Dark Moon's another great example.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful staff over there.
Look at her doing some like shout outs.
Yeah, I love everybody there, and to say, where have you guys been?
I feel like they sell their beans. I think I saw them somewhere.
Well, I know they're at Whole Foods.
Yeah. That's where I saw it. Okay. I was like, it wasn't Target, but yeah.
Well, the staff there is just fantastic.
Yeah.
The staff at Golden Boy is fantastic. You got Stefano's, which is fantastic. You have Gaetano's, which is fantastic. Like, you have all these locally owned businesses that have just the best people.
Yeah.
There's something about it. We have a general manager that we just hired who was with Starbucks, and he was my favorite Starbucks manager. I went to Starbucks just for him.
Yeah.
And we got the opportunity of having him come and be part of our community, and it was so rewarding. But I kind of like this. I saw him one day, when if I open a community based, I'm gonna steal him. And luckily I didn't steal him from Starbucks.
Like, there was no
stealing. He was no longer with Starbucks when I approached him, but how rewarding was it to be able to like build this, to foresee it?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is because I often would go, like when I was writing my dissertation paper, not that I couldn't write it at home, but I recognized, like, I'd be like, oh, I just need to do some laundry.
Yeah.
I had a hard time focusing. So I would go sit at that Starbucks, because it was right down the street from kids' school. Yeah. So I would go sit there and I would work for several hours and like write my paper and stuff like that. And I always noticed him because of how he treated everybody, like whether they were coming up to order, whatever, the employees, the patrons, like he just was always so friendly and like welcoming, and like, again, going out of his way to say hello and like all of those things that you don't think matter.
Yeah.
But people notice. And so I was like, hey, let's make Starbucks. And he was I was like, I like him. I mean, never told him in Starbucks, but I did make sure I told him. I was like, I always really liked you.
He's
were
great.
very friendly.
Yeah. No, he's great. And that was the thing. Even when he was a Starbucks manager, I remember he was into the melon hats, and they had a new one coming out. So I got him one just as like a big tip, like, hey, surprise, they had just released this melon hat. Mm-hmm. And so he didn't know a year later I'd be knocking on his door and saying, hey, how will you want these? But right? Of letting people know, like, you're important and you matter.
Yeah.
And then also accepting that for the people who aren't that way. We have a lot of members who are very quiet. And one specifically who comes in early morning. I try to make a point of coming in early morning just to spend a few minutes with her intentionally. And that's, again, rewarding. And I'm grateful that I get that time with her. That's undivided time because she's there early. And no, it's just
there's not a lot of people in the mornings, like, because my son does like football and different things like that. So sometimes like I'm dropping him off, like we're leaving the house like 5:30, 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'm like, I always joke, I'm like, I gotta go babysit my pots.
Yeah.
And so I would like swing by if it's right there and, do my thing. And I've literally like walked in, I think the first time walked in, I was like, I don't know where the lights are. And like, so like the members area is turned on,
Right.
but the other one didn't. I was like, and music was still on.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, did somebody not turn it on? I don't know if I hope I don't get in trouble. I was like, I didn't turn it on. Maybe somebody didn't turn it on. I was like, it'll be fine. I was like, I don't think it's that big of a deal, Shalane. But in my mind, I was like, I expected somebody to be there because the music was on.
Right.
I was like, oh no. But yeah,
if I'm there, the music's off until someone comes in because I like the peace and quiet. Nothing.
Same.
There's something like very comforting about that quietness before the day starts. So I always get people walk in and like, there's no music playing. I'm like, oh yeah, let's turn it on.
Yeah, we could do that.
Every time.
Like this.
I don't know when it's stop.
It's like when you drive with no music on. I'm like, wow.
Exactly.
I think it's once you have kids and it's like constant or things that you need to do, so your brain is very busy, that you're like.
Yeah, so for me, I like in the morning no music, but most people like the music on.
What have you, so because people are again coming as adults to like learn, often adults coming to learn this like a new thing, what do you think is like the biggest thing that holds people back from joining community or learning something new? Because they're doing both at your space.
It would be hard to say for everyone what holds them back from doing it. I would say that every person is carrying some trauma, right, of some kind. And so that could limit them. I think it limits people also from being open to trusting a community, which for me is the most heartbreaking, is to have somebody who that you would love to be able to be there for them, but maybe they just can't let their guard down.
Yeah.
And so you have to be respectful of the fact that they have limitations.
Yeah. And let if and when they're ready, you're there. But like, you're like, it's like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Or again, going back to the whole, some people just like peaches, that maybe you're just not the best. And you have to be respectful and take a step back and say, maybe I'm not the best person for them building their community.
Yeah.
So I have to try to foster, but also step back and say, I might not be the best venue for that. So then maybe trying to plug them into people that would be.
Yeah.
And and hoping that there's not some kind of toxic friendships that get formed too, right, in the community. Yeah. Because that's always a potential as well. So it's a balancing act. And it's, again, 99% reward, 1% not. But those days that you have to accept the fact that, you tried your best to build a community and maybe it just wasn't for everyone. That's a sad day, but you move past it and you hopefully do something to make up for it.
Yeah. What do you think then, from what you've seen, and again, building a community that is, it was almost like the people, but like craving what you guys are offering. So in that sense, what do you think they're healing or like working through? When they come, or what have you seen?
There's probably a whole spectrum of it, right?
Yeah.
Like you've had a whole spectrum of people who maybe didn't have that community when they were growing up, either for probably a number of different reasons, or as they became adults, that the community wasn't as easy for them to build, right? Yeah. It's so much easier. And, I was fortunate enough, my mom really believed in higher education. I came from very humble beginnings, but she was really a big advocate for good education. So I was able to attend boarding school for high school, which was the highlight of living with, it's co-ed school.
I didn't know you went to boarding school.
I did.
Where? Where was it?
It was in Sonoma County. So a real rough place to live.
Terrible.
It was on, our campus was surrounded by the Russian River. So again, horrible.
You guys really, really terrible.
I roughed it. I really roughed it. But that was probably, with the exception of obviously having a family, was the highlight of my life because of getting to live with your best friends. 24/7. And so getting to live with other, it's such an eclectic group of girls.
Yeah.
And I look back at that time, and many of them I'm so close to now. Like, we met each other at 15 years old, and we're really close, and they're all over the world. I would say country, but all over the world. Having that opportunity to build that community,
Yeah.
and I don't think a lot of people get to build that. And that 24/7 part of the studio, that's why it was so important. 24/7 access, so that you're not having to leave. I have to pop in at 9 and leave at 10.
Yeah.
Or I'm a nurse and I get off, and I couldn't do this otherwise.
Again, makes it accessible, meeting people where they're at.
And we're a 24/7 town.
Yeah.
So if we have the idea for us, we pay obviously more in insurance because of it.
Yeah.
So if the idea of saving money in order to not have that insurance exposure, but not being able to offer it to somebody who worked a graveyard shift wasn't something that that we're
compromising.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's important as a business owner, is to understand, okay, if I'm going to build community, what am I willing to compromise?
Right.
And we've talked about this quite a bit, both being parents and, as your kids get older, you have to find other ways to connect with them. Like you were saying, your oldest, wants walks and time, and the other one wants, access to service.
Yeah.
So how then, I think when you're looking at it from that perspective of a woman who has goals and ambitions and things that she wants to give back to the world, but also wants to be a great mother, what do you think is, how do you prioritize your time, or how do you navigate trying to do both?
For me, as far back as I can remember, and I always say I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and I remember this memory very, very clearly of folding laundry, and in my mind I was thinking I'm folding my baby's laundry, like my kid's laundry. That was really a very profound memory for me. And so my goal always, number one, was a mom. Hands down, I was going to be a mom no matter what. So it wasn't one of those things
come hell or high water, verse.
If I or taking someone's space. I am going to. And again, I think it was being raised with so many cousins. So
yeah,
I probably was carrying and changing diapers probably the time I was 8-5.
Same,
probably.
Same.
And so that was just always going to be what my life was. And so, and my mom would always say to me, what's the name of your very first relationship? When I was young, meaning dating. And I always say valedictorian. Her whole thing was again, you're going to marry school.
Yeah.
That's your goal. And so she would always say to me, because what's your goal in life? I would say to be a mom. And in order to be a good mom, you have to be
a good teacher.
You have to be dedicated. You have to be educated. You have to be all of these things. And so I was really fortunate enough to work for a company that supported those goals before I started my own company. Because my company, Rox Management, which is named after my mom, her name was Roxy. And my brother owns a company called Rox Media.
I love it.
Because we both obviously loved our mom very much. And she was, for us growing up very humbly, it's easy to say we were very humble, very poor growing up. She was all about higher education. So she worked multiple jobs to make sure that my brother went to boarding school too. It was very big for her that we got this prep school opportunity. Yeah. And so I worked for a company that really gave me the flexibility of being a mom. My goal was to raise to the ranks there. So I started, and I wanted to be a vice president for that company by the age of 30. I did that by 28. My goal was then to be a senior VP there, and then to be the COO, which I ended up accomplishing. But at the same time, working with the CEO, I would let him know, I one day will have kids. I will work as many hours as you need, but when I have kids, I need the flexibility. I really will never miss any activity for them. Yeah. I will work nights, I will work weekends, but I won't miss an activity. And he saw the value in me, and allowed that to happen. And so,
but again, you're I'm willing to invest in you. And I think that's kind of a theme of again, building a community is you have to be willing to invest in other people just as much as you want them to invest in what the community that you're building.
It's a balancing act. So I see the value of what I bring to you, but I also understand there's a value of my loyalty to the company, which is your loyalty to me.
Yeah.
So my youngest actually got to come to work with me. And
I love that.
Now we called him the office baby because I have a picture of him. He looks like a little bear cub crawling down this long hallway. But he would just crawl into other people's offices, and they'd yell down the hall, I have Graham. I'm like, okay, cool. And he got to come to the office and tell him. And again, out of necessity, because I was a key man. So the CEO was like, listen, we need you to come back as soon as possible. Yeah. And so he was probably 2 months old when I had a baby carrier back in the office. Yeah. But the CEO didn't have any kids of his own. And so he was like, I really like having this baby here. Just keep bringing him until it becomes a thing. And then he went to preschool at 18 months, but I got to bring him into the office. And so being a mom was always the forefront for me. The studio came at a time where my kids got older.
Yeah.
They didn't need me as much. They were kind of like, get away.
Yeah.
Like not in a mean way, but kind of like, okay.
Their priority, they're wanting to spend where they wanted to spend all their fun time with you. And now they want to spend all their fun time with their friends. So now you have all this fun time and you're like, hello?
Yeah. I'm like,
What about
nice too?
And I'm like, oh, now I need to find friends
have to
again.
go.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. So that's why, I would never have started this this was something that was always a dream of mine, but it wasn't a right now.
Yeah.
It was a someday.
Yeah.
Someday and I didn't even know if it was a business, to be honest with you. It was just someday I will do something that will give back to the community. If that's volunteering, if it's, I didn't know what it was, but I knew it would be something.
Yeah.
And I knew when the time, I felt like the timing will happen at some point. And then it just so happened to be that I had gotten into pottery and really enjoyed it. And then the kids didn't need me as much.
Yeah.
And I found I was feeling like a loss for myself.
Yeah.
What am I doing with my time?
Yeah. And you're like, oh, I can have. So I told my husband, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is like the first hobby I think I've ever had. Because again, I'm an oldest of 5. And so like, you're like, no, even when I was younger, like a lot of my free time, so to speak, often was like babysitting or helping with dinner stuff or like I would go to a friend's house like a normal kid and stuff, but it was like it's different, like and had kids really young, and I was like, when they're little, you don't have time for you to have all these hobbies. No, they just need you too much for being alive.
And I think also, at least for me, and not every mom feels this way, and I love that and respect that for them. But for me, it was like, I want to be with them.
Yeah, same.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to have kids who really wanted me there all the time. My oldest again is going to be 17, and he and I take a nightly walk every single night together. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Like, I think if I get emotional about anything, it's that gratitude I feel that I got to be so involved with them and that they wanted me there.
Yeah.
Long.
But I think they probably wanted you there because you also wanted to be there and actively made them a priority. And I think when children feel that way, and again, maybe not all children, but I feel like often when there's this sense of like, what can I do? Not in a way that I'm a pushover, but in a way that I want you to feel loved and supported.
Yeah.
And instead of doing things together that you wanted to do, you recognize that's not what my Whopper doesn't want nightly back rubs. He wants this other thing. So even though I might need to leave my studio or leave this or not do these things so I can take my nightly walk, that's important to me. Yeah. And so, and the flip side, then they also look forward to those things because it creates a rhythm of consistent sense of safety and connection for them too.
Yeah. I think also I'm really lucky. I really did.
I feel like it's always a balance of nature and nurture.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do. I see that. But I would hate for anyone to feel like if they're not getting that, right?
Yeah.
If it was something that they didn't do.
Yeah.
Because I think to have a teenager who wants to do a nightly walk, I know that's unique.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I joked with him because he's feeling, I think, already the transition of he's going off to college.
Same.
Right?
We both have kids that are 17.
Yeah. And so that transition, and he's already feeling it, I think. And so he wants to hang out more.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all for it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I'm willing to drop whatever. You want to hang out?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then also feeling the loss.
Yeah.
Like and I joked with him the other day. I was like, I'm videotaping everything this year. Like, your first year of life, that was nothing compared to this last year at home.
Yes.
Because then life changes. I'm like hiding in the bushes, like recording it.
Yeah. Do you guys want to go get a drink or something? Yeah, but I'll go get a coffee. Your friends want to
every morning.
Can I just drive you? And they're like, we drive. Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
How about if I just hang out and
I'll pay for it?
Yeah.
Then can I go? Oh, how?
I'm sponsoring this, guys.
What do I gotta do? Because I'm willing to do. Yeah, it's a hard. I always joke. I'm like, I've been empty nesting since she was like a sophomore.
Yeah.
So I feel like as soon as my oldest got her driver's license is really when I was like, oh shit,
this changes.
Yeah. Which is again, I was like, I need something for myself. Pottery, sure.
And that's really the timing of it. I mean, the timing just worked out perfectly. And obviously my business partner, the timing with and I wasn't even going to open the studio, to be honest with you. Like, again, I wanted to find a community-based place, but it was, again, just talking to people and saying, hey, what are your life goals? And he was like, well, one day I'd love to own my own company. My dad does, my sister does. I would love to own my own company one day. I said, we should open a pottery studio. Like, no brainer. Like, you should do that. You love this. This is passion. And he was just like, no, that's crazy. And I thought, why? Because I wasn't by nature an entrepreneur. I wasn't. I was definitely a corporate person who liked to run the operations. I was not a dreamer, and I'm going to be an entrepreneur, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised by that, because I feel like
I wasn't.
Knowing you a little bit, I would think.
No, I was really about helping other people, serving other people, and not necessarily doing it because I started my first company, Rox Management, out of necessity, because COVID had hit, and I had a couple of clients who had with my other company that I was working for at the time, that my owner of that company, he was wrapping that company up. And so here were these clients that were going to have and they still needed help.
Yeah.
And so one of the chairman of the board for one of the boards I governed he was like, well, do you just start a company and do it? And I think that was like November 18. I started the company November 19. And I did it not because I want to start this company. I did it because I was like, oh, someone needs help.
Yeah.
So let me start a company.
Here's a hole that I can fill.
Yeah. And so even starting the Potter Studio wasn't like, I want to open this studio. It was more, you should open the studio. Oh, you're not going to do it? Well, then I guess I'll do it. And then you could be a part of it. Kind of like sheltering that. Like
fostering.
Fostering that. And so it's great. I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did, because it's been super rewarding. But it was never I think I just kind of fall into things sometimes where I had no intention. How did I get here?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's great. I had no clue. But
I could replicate these steps if I wanted to. So I can't give you how to. But I think that's also to say, when you follow things that make you feel excited and make you feel purposeful and make you feel,
or even scared.
Yes.
People always say that to me, like, did you know it was going to work out? I'm like, no. But at the end of the day, like, it's a failure.
Yes. If it doesn't work out, I maybe I lost some money, but like, other than that, like, what have I really lost?
And I have failed at a lot of things. A lot.
So you're like, I breathe
wrong. So can breathe right from the age of 7. So, and it ain't too loud. But no, I have failed so much. But I think that's where, grit comes from, is failing and then having to figure it out.
Yeah. My husband and I were talking about, I was like, I think as I've gotten older, I think all the things that felt were these things that, again, a lot of people come to me to like work through nervous system dysregulation and, chronic condition, like all these things that the environment that they grew up in had created their connections in their brain and belief systems that run, things like now they have cortisol issues and stuff like that because of having to be hypervigilant when they're, young and just different things like this but I was like, I also think as you get older, you can really start to kind of do some of this kind of work of like, again, you're like, oh, this actually created, as much as it created maybe some bad things. And like, you're like, it's not fun when somebody says they don't like you or that, they don't feel like they belong in something that you're like, I'm trying to make it inclusive. That it also creates the flip side of like, in order to be courageous and be brave, you also have to have things that are very scary that you did the hard things anyways.
I love that you say that, because that was my biggest thing for my kids growing up, where they would tell me, I'm scared. And I would say, but you also are brave. And with bravery comes the feeling of pride.
Yes.
And you cannot feel pride. Absolutely cannot feel pride unless you first feel brave. And you cannot feel brave unless you feel scared.
Yeah.
You have to be scared. So right now you're scared. I get it. I understand it does not feel good. But just think about the fact that the next step you take is bravery. And then the next step you take after that is pride.
It's like everybody wants the pride, or I talk this a lot. Everybody wants like the money and they want the success and they want all those things. But what they want is when they see somebody successful, the way that they carry themselves, the way they're decisive, they want that they feel comfortable holding a lot of money and making good investments and making good choices or trying things, or their creativity, their ability to, again, like be a leader. Like that's what they're looking at, and they're saying, I want to be like that. They're not necessarily looking and saying, I want $1 million, because millionaires and people with a lot of money and success will tell you time and time again,
Yep.
having the money didn't change all of the other things.
Correct.
So it's like what they're looking at is as seeing, I want to be this kind of person. In order to be this kind of person, I had to have, honestly, the shitty things in between.
You have to.
Like, you can't avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, pride without bravery and the fear is just arrogance,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
It's just arrogance of, oh, I'm proud, but I didn't actually get here.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my oldest son, we went to dinner one day and he said to me, it's a funny story. He probably was going to hate that I say this, but
Hopefully he won't watch this. He's not first.
he just said, he was like, he was kind of having a rough day. And I said, what is going on? And finally he said, you raised me without grit. And I laughed and I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'm not like you. You raised me.
There's not, I haven't had enough adversity.
That's what he said.
Yes.
You raised me too privileged and too, I don't have adversity. And you grew up very humble and you struggled and you had to figure it out. And I have no grit. And I just remember laughing at him when I said, is there any girl you like? And he was like, what? I said, is there a girl that you like? And he said,
He's like, where did this come from? And he goes,
yeah. I said, ask her out. I'll have her tell you no. And then do it again. Because that is adversity and grit. There's opportunity for adversity everywhere you look. Anything that you could fail at,
some are more presented like
correct.
that you cannot avoid.
Oh, yeah.
But there is plenty out there for you to go seek as
Yeah.
well.
Having to figure life out because you didn't have the things given to you, right? He's right with that. But there's so many things you can
Yeah.
go out there and try for.
Well, even again on that like college, anticipatory track, it's like it's going for the college that you think you're going to be turned down from and being okay that you might get turned down. You can always transfer in later.
Yeah.
Do these other things so that you're prepared to transfer if that's really what you want to do.
Right? Try for
Like,
something and
yes.
with the understanding that you're going to probably be told no. And you're going to do it again.
Be bad at something.
Yeah.
Try something new. And I think
Yeah.
that's where a lot of people, even again coming to pottery or anything else, that like I think one of the best things you can do as an adult is not be good at something and actively seek out trying to be better at something, because that's literally what your entire childhood is not knowing anything, being bad at it, and spending hours becoming better at math, becoming better at science, and more
Something.
knowledgeable, constantly becoming better at something.
Or even if you think about it, accepting the person that doesn't like you,
Mhm.
right? And understanding that, okay, doesn't feel great. And doesn't feel great, and I would say not necessarily because, oh, it makes me feel bad about myself, but more from the fact I'm like, I failed at getting to know you. I failed at showing you a genuine part of me that you can connect with, right? But that's grit of saying, like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not going to let this stop me
Yeah.
from building a community. I'm not going to let it stop me from connecting from the next person that walks in the door,
Yeah.
or at least trying
Doesn't mean I
to.
have a bad business. It just means it didn't work for this person.
Yeah. And that's okay. And to understand that you can't be everything for everyone,
Yeah.
but you can do the best that you feel comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
And find it fulfilling. But yeah, it was just cracked me up when he was just like, I have no grit and it's your fault.
It's funny that you say this was an exact conversation we had, my husband and I had hours ago of like,
Oh, really?
because he and I had, I would say his adversity was more, he didn't realize like he was very emotionally shut down for like all of high school, things like this. He's like,
Yeah.
I recognize how much I felt uncomfortable with things. So I secluded even from myself.
Got it. Yeah.
And I was like, I had a very different kind of adversity that built, again, a different like ways to build grit, so to speak, or resilience and things like that. So it's interesting that this would come up, because I was like, well, it seems like, because again, you're trying to create a better, I think sometimes in trying to create a better life, you create a life that they don't have a lot of experience. And so then adulthood becomes very traumatic.
Yeah.
Or like that transition of like, we want you to feel experienced and like you can handle some of these things, but not necessarily from trauma.
That trauma. Yeah. Not trauma
Like,
based.
so that
Yeah.
like asking somebody out that you like. Again, we made our son, he hadn't really played much football prior to being on the high school team. And we were like, listen, you are one of 80 kids. And you're new. They don't know you. If you want to be somebody that is memorable, you need to be memorable. And you want to be memorable for the right things. I guarantee you, almost no freshman is going to go up to this coach and be like, hi, coach.
Right.
I'm so-and-so.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited. I'm really looking to like play D-line and stuff like that. So you put me wherever, but I feel like I'm good at some of these things or whatever. I was like, just going up and having to introduce yourself as, and I'm kind of socially uncomfortable a little bit too.
Yep.
And I remember he's like, that's the one thing that you have to do. It was the first week. I think it was the first week or first couple of days went by and we're asking, no, I haven't yet, blah, blah. And my husband if you do not go and introduce yourself, I will come in, and at the end, you and I will go together, and I will make the introduction, and that will be more awkward for you.
Absolutely.
Sure shit, he did it. He was like, okay. But it was something that he saw. You could tell he was like, oh yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
You saw the shift and saw the change.
You feel the difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's it doesn't, these things where we're trying to, again, make ourselves slightly uncomfortable to grow. It doesn't have to be hard or complicated or traumatic or any of those kinds of things, but it has to be something that you feel some kind of resistance or fear around. And I think that's, again, why places where you're learning to do something new and it forces you to lean on community is really good for building that type of character,
No, I think even going to boarding school, as much as it was the highlight of my entire childhood, it also, I did not want to go.
Yeah.
Because it was I remember telling my mom,
but it's really scary.
Oh, I remember literally crying and being you're leaving me, guilt tripping her on purpose, trying to go home. And she was just please, you're going to love it here. If you hate it at Christmas time, you can come home. I promise you. But Meg, you're going to love it. And I remember, I grew up being the loud breather that breathe. Right. So I was very shy, very introverted, did not. And then by senior year, I was the one, I wasn't even in classes. Kids would come up to me and say, we're all not prepared for this test. Can you go talk to the teacher and negotiate another test date? And I'm I'm not even in class. Yeah, I know, but you can do it. Go talk to them.
Yeah, I see your potential.
I found my voice, which was okay, I can negotiate really well.
Yeah.
And I can see where, connections of A, B, C connect together and how this is logical. And I would go and talk to the instructor or the teacher and be oh, so they're not ready, but here's the reason why. And they would work. And I would remember walking away going, what? How is this working? But it was that adversity, that grit, that needing to do it. If you saw me back prior to that experience in boarding school, I was quiet. I don't even know if I talked.
That's so interesting because I feel you're so friendly.
I'm so introverted and so unbelievably introverted and so unbelievably shy. But growing up, my mom would always say to me, we don't have a lot of money, but what doesn't cost any money? Confidence. So you can walk in there and you can be the most confident person. You go to boarding school, which I went on scholarship, but you go to boarding school, you are with kids who are wealthy, and I was not. So everything was about confidence. Okay.
Roll fake it till you make it, okay?
I think she would say, she was okay, you have nothing, but you're confident. So you got to fake it. You got to walk in there and be okay, I'm going to be confident. And yeah, that was a lot of anxiety, a lot of, again, grit. So I get where he's coming from as far as the adversity. You didn't give me the opportunity for adversity. I crack up at it because growing up, the only thing I wanted was probably less adversity.
Yeah. Real.
So,
but again, I think a lot of times you don't see the trickle down effect for a long period of time. And that's why I always say I'm really grateful for the adversity because it's also what made me a good entrepreneur. It's the reason why I could provide for my kids as a single parent. It's the reason why, I felt really confident when they didn't feel well. I knew herbs and some homeopathic remedies I would reach for, supplementation. I've never taken my kids. My husband is literally he took my kid to an ER in the middle of the night. And I was why? Knowing when I woke up, he's well, I didn't want to wake you. And I was no, you wake me for those things.
Yes.
But he was running a fever and he was throwing up. And I was great. Yeah, that's normal. It's fine. Well, I was worried. I panicked because he was of it. And we have never been to an urgent care. We have never been to I was not that we haven't had things, but I've always felt very confident because of my upbringing. I always joke my mom was I always joke she was a kitchen nurse.
Yeah.
Everybody else was.
Oh, yeah. My mom was the same way, charcoal. Oh, yeah. Here was something I use charcoal and liquor to help with that. Yeah.
Here's some wheatgrass. Keep your immune. I was choking it down. So I was that was very normal for me for us to know a lot of those things. And I think had I not had that and felt more dependent on either the medical care system or a job always having a place for me, I think I would have, I don't think I would have, again, been, where I am today, so to speak. But you know what I mean? Same idea of the type of person you are and stuff like that. So I think it's so much more than when you're like, I want to build. I don't think people go into it thinking, I want to build community. They think the people who do it well are like, here's a hole.
And there's a loss.
Yeah.
Or there's something missing.
Yes.
And so, like I mentioned, it wasn't even something I had thought of for myself, but it was more of a, oh, you should do that.
Yeah.
And then, okay.
And then I'm not going to, why would I let things
why not?
stop me? I have it in the past.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, oh, well, I can do it. And I remembered saying, oh, I'm going to open a pottery studio. And everyone was like, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? I'm like,
is this like a quarter life crisis? Like, what's happening?
It could have been. Right. Kids don't need me. I need something.
Yeah.
So it could have been, but I mean, it's worked out, which is great. And so it's rewarding, and it makes my kids proud.
Yeah.
Which is nice as well.
Well, and again, I think watching somebody else emulate, even if there's not enough adversity, but emulate these kinds of things are coming up in the community. Somebody said they didn't like me, things like this. Oh, okay. Like if my mom can handle it.
Yeah.
And like these things can happen and things are okay. Like I'm okay. I'll figure it out.
And even like looking back at even boarding school, right? So everyone wasn't harmonious. There were definitely people who didn't like me just because of the fact that maybe I didn't have what they had. You have to get over that.
Yeah.
You have to just accept the fact that, like I was not a cool high schooler. I was definitely not a cool high schooler at all. I had to grow into my cool far from it. I don't even know if I'm a cool adult, but I don't.
You're a pretty cool adult. I think so.
I'll take your word for it. But no, I was not. I was definitely not a popular kid, ever, not once. And so it's just kind of accepting the fact that I am who I am, and I'm doing the best I can. Yeah. And some days that's great, and some days that's. And I think there's something probably genuine for people about that, because I think most people feel that way.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like.
And I think the acceptance of being okay, I think more than anything, being okay with not being liked is like the biggest, not to say the most important part of community, but like, which seems counter to community. But in doing anything, you're always going to repel somebody, and that has to be okay.
And you know what's interesting? The people who didn't like me, I actually liked them, which is so crazy. Like I really, like, literally, I'm like, oh. Well, I like you. In my head, I didn't say this to them, but in my head, I'm thinking, well, I like you. But okay. It's okay.
So I thought we had a vibe. It's like when you're dating, you're like, I felt big signals. What was I giving that? Is there really something else?
Well, there are people who are easy, right? We already talked about that. Like where you meet somebody and you just feel like, okay, I'm at ease with them.
Yeah.
Right. Then there's other people who I don't really feel at ease, but I still like you.
Yeah.
Like and my kids, it's funny because they would come home from school and they'd say like, oh, well, so-and-so made fun of my shirt. And I'd always say, well, whatever they make fun of, compliment them. So if they make fun of your shirt, say, oh, that's okay. I like your shirt a lot, because most of the time people make fun of the things they feel insecure. And so if they could make, my youngest has this blonde curly hair. So lots of compliments on his hair. But there are a few kids that would say, I hate your curly hair. And he would come home crying about it and say, well, do you don't like my hair? And I'd say, well, tell them you like their hair. See how it changes. And so that would kind of shock a kid.
Yeah.
Or he'd come home and be like, yeah, I told them I like their hair. And they were kind of shocked. And then they said, well, I actually do like your hair. I do like it. Yeah. And so he's like, they do like my hair. It's really confusing. I'd say, I think they probably feel insecure because you have really cool hair.
Yeah. And you might be getting compliments that they're wanting and they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just.
So that was, in those situations, like, well, I don't really like you. I'm like, oh, I like you. Then okay. That's okay. And maybe this is not the best environment for us. You know what I mean?
Like this feels like it could turn into a toxic relationship, so I should probably let it go.
Think for it. Yeah, right. So it's navigating that. It's navigating
that it's not about you.
It's not about being a people pleaser, right? You can't please people. There's a big difference between I'm doing my best and I'm trying to please you. Because pleasing people, I don't know if that ever really works.
And in fact, I learned something like in studying, like, again, like some human behavior and the way that why we behave the way that we do. And people pleasing is often a way to feel like you can control the other person. Because if you make them happy, then you can control their responses, or you can control the way you're perceived or the experience is perceived. So in that way, it's like even people pleasing, it becomes, and again, this is very much a compliment to you of like, in not people pleasing and making something where a community where everybody, it's perfect for everybody. What's happened is you've maintained integrity of the community and of community standards or those kinds of things that are important for that community. And if that value isn't there for somebody else, that being okay takes kind of you or, you know, your partner's ego out of it of like, how do we create a safe space for the majority? Because there's always going to be outliers.
Always outliers. Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that because I think that's really the goal. You know, I in therapy this week, you talk about people pleasing in therapy that I think everyone should benefit from therapy. And in therapy this week, I said, okay, now I'm aware of a behavior that I do. And now that I'm aware of it, if I continue doing it, then I fear it's manipulation. So help me walk through it. And like my therapist was like, well, I'm supposed to be asking you questions to get to that epiphany, but I'm glad you've gotten there by yourself. So, okay, tell me about it. And I explained the situation to her and I said, if I continue to do this because it works, but I wasn't aware I was doing it.
Yeah.
And now that I am, I can't continue doing it.
You're like, now
it's manipulation.
I feel shitty, so I guess I should do the right thing.
But it wasn't a shitty thing was to survive.
Yeah, I don't know, right? I know I'm going to feel shitty if I keep doing it.
But you're doing that right. I know that I'm doing it more for safety and control than it is for the betterment of everyone.
Yeah.
I can't continue doing it.
Yeah.
And that's going to be real hard because I've got to deal with the real truth of like what happens when I stop doing this.
And a lot of people at that point are uncomfortable with that repercussion, so they will keep doing it because it's what's worked. And that's what I always say, like, I'm like, people in general, your biology will crave the devil it knows versus the devil you don't. And so any type of change, even if, again, you're like, this isn't, now it's manipulation, but it's easier than the feedback that I might get from this person or the feedback.
It definitely was, right? Until I realized like, oh, I think I do this. And then, if I continue. And I think it's you mentioned it earlier of walking into a room, I can identify based off my own childhood, who is the threat to me, the energy of someone. And I could, that will be who I focus on. I'm going to focus on you and I'm going to make sure you're safe for not just me, but for everyone around.
Yes.
That's not healthy to do for anyone involved in that situation. To give my focus to the one person who is a threat. And so I have to be aware of how do I navigate that? How do I
don't know, maybe we'll have to do a part 2.
We'll have to figure it out, right? That's what I'm working on right now. But how do you navigate that when you're used to that behavior?
And it sounds like what I'm hearing is that you're like, oh, I can build community and I can do all these things and still be learning. And like that be okay that I make mistakes or that, again, people don't like me or that I'm learning things about myself and the way that I operate. And I think so many people have something to learn about not showing up perfect.
Yeah. And understanding that not showing up perfect is better for everyone. Because if you're going to people please, at least this is what I'm working through. If I'm going to people please to reduce the threat for myself or the community, then that person doesn't learn that the behavior they're demonstrating
is wrong.
It's wrong. And so I have to do what's best for the whole, right?
Yeah.
Which means I have to modify my behavior. And that's a hard lesson when what's been working my entire life of taking the threat away has not failed me yet. So.
Well, I feel like that's a great place to end, to be honest. That way we could do a 2-week continue.
Cool. Sounds great.
No, but I'm so appreciative. I think there was this, I mean, I think it's been, like an hour and 30 minutes at this point, which is probably one of the longer ones, but there's so many, I think, valuable things in here, whether it's, again, taking ego out of building a community, whether it's doing what's best for the whole, even though it's hard, showing up, even if you're not healed or not perfect or, and all of those things, there's like so much that people can take for this. So I'm, again, so grateful to you.
I really am too.
And because I really do think you are masterful at creating community. I feel like I've been in a lot of pockets where, especially in like the yoga world and stuff like that, community is very focused and very forward. So it's fascinating to see other ways that people build community and ways in which it does well and it thrives and people flock to it. And there's people that try very, very hard to build community and are still missing the mark. And I think none of the things you said are things that people that are missing the mark will realize.
I'm
So,
grateful. I'm grateful
yeah.
for the compliments. I'm humbled by
Yeah.
them, but I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's why I was like, I really want to have you on. I really hope you want to come talk.
I want you to. So if you want part 2, let me know.
Yeah. I always ask somebody at the end one question, but if you're riding an elevator, you are only going up one floor, so you're not like riding for very long with them, and you had to tell somebody what the secret to life and the secret to living a happy, fulfilled, rich life really was, ooh, what would it be?
Okay, let's see. An elevator. Intention, I would say. Living with intention. People have asked me, what is your parenting style? And I would always, even from the time my kids were little, I would always say living with intention. Intentionally doing things that were meaningful, that had a purpose. And I think that kind of translates to everything else in my life, is that I really don't move without there being an intention of helping in some way. So I think that's, at the end of the day, or the end of the life, or whatever it may be, I hope that my legacy is what my mom, if she would have lived a long life, would have been. And I think she lived with intention.
I feel like also, again, like, so wise. So wise. You guys, if you are in the Las Vegas area and you want to come do some pottery, or again, maybe you're visiting, which is so odd. I actually have a lot of people that want to try different modalities that I do. They're like, I'm in town for a conference, and they'll like pop in.
Yeah.
So you can always pop in and take a class at Common Ground Pottery, commongroundpottery.com. They opt matcha bowls, ramen bowls. You guys did like bird feeders not too long ago, all sorts of different mugs, wheel throwing. There's like so many options.
Just come visit us, even if you
Yeah.
want to take a class. Hop in.
Yeah. It's really fun there. So, but thank you so much, Meg, for being here. I appreciate
I
you.
really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Until next time, you guys. Cheers. Done. Okay. Oh, I didn't hit record. No, I'm just kidding.